I'm all analog.
The smart one.
Well, good afternoon. First of all, I want to say thank you to Chuck and Cheryl and Chris and all Maryland Realtors, not only those here, but those that are out today in the cold, working, showing prospective Maryland families a house and an opportunity and a neighborhood and a place to live in this state. I want to say thank you for allowing me to join you in this presentation on today's State of Maryland Housing Report. This is an immensely important moment. The findings of the 2024 State of Maryland Housing Report not only updates us on the thinking of Maryland's voters, it provides key insights into solutions that Marylanders want to see and will provide unmatched guidance for our continued efforts to address our state's housing crisis. When Governor Moore appointed me as Secretary of Housing and Community Development, I outlined 5 key goals for our department: to ensure shelter for all, to connect all Marylanders, to make lovable places, to right the wrongs of the past, and to expand affordable housing supply throughout the state. Since then, we've made tremendous progress on these objectives. Maryland Realtors has been an essential partner to that progress, and I sincerely thank you for your collaboration and your partnership. If you haven't heard, we're moving forward with one of the most robust housing packages that any state government has seen and that Maryland has ever seen, and a budget sized to match those goals. The conversation has changed, and everyone is now talking about affordable housing, from the General Assembly to the Maryland Association of Counties to the Maryland Municipal League, their local government constituents and partners, and stakeholders like realtors across this state, and as evidenced by this polling, nearly every Maryland family. Next week, the first hearings for Governor Moore's legislative housing bills will continue that discussion, and I hope to see you all there. The time is right. Every day we wait to act is another day that a Maryland family can't sign a lease. Another day that a Maryland family can't afford to move their family to a home that can accommodate them. Another day that another Maryland family can't pay their rent, another family can't pay their mortgage, can't choose Maryland, and has to choose somewhere else. More people now are finally listening, and more are understanding. But for too many Marylanders, they understand because they're experiencing the crisis firsthand. The cost burdens, the strained family budgets, unacceptable housing conditions, even homelessness. And they need us to do something about it. The results of the State of Housing Report proves it. 65% of Marylanders polled believe that excessive regulations are making it too difficult to build housing, in their opinion. And they're right. And I don't say they're right just because I read the numbers. I say they're right because I'm a city planner. I say they're right not only because I'm Maryland's chief housing official. I say it because I spent 15 years as a mayor and a city council member, a planning commissioner, a board of housing appeals member. I worked in local government for all that time, and I saw firsthand. We set up a lot of barriers to doing the right thing, and it's time we knock some of them down. 99% of respondents aged 18 to 34 say it's harder to buy a home than for the previous generation. 99%. Is there a polling question with that kind of consensus in America today? No, I don't think so either. When will we stop accepting the excuse that times have changed? It's time we change. It's time we change things for the better. Countless Marylanders can't afford to buy a home in the same neighborhood where they grew up. We're pricing out Maryland's next generation. My kids, our grandkids. 89% of respondents say that even with a full-time job, working families, the ability to afford a home presents a huge or a medium-sized obstacle. This is a trend that will persist without deliberate action. We are at an inflection point in housing in Maryland. And we're at an inflection point in household finances in Maryland. Maryland families need us, and they're begging us to act. If I've learned something in the last 15 years, it's that politics is a numbers game. Well, the numbers are out, and they don't lie, and I hope everybody's listening. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, and I have to find my spot now, sorry. Thank you. All right, right, that's the easy part. It's one word, questions. Any questions? I know you have to have questions.
Do we have anybody on watch?
I have a question. Dwight Weingarten with Gannett Newspapers in Maryland. I'll direct the question to Mr. Hill, and then anyone else who would like to answer, feel free. I sat in this room last year, and one of your predecessors talked about the housing shortage at 120,000 units. The number on the screen, I know probably from a different source, 150,000 this year in Maryland. Given the housing package that the Moore-Miller administration has brought forward, do you anticipate at this time next year that the housing shortage will be reduced given the legislative efforts that are being undertaken?
So that's actually a great question. We look at these things as baby steps. They're small steps in the right direction. Is the housing crisis going to be solved overnight? We don't think so. But these are efforts that we're taking to, and working with the Moore administration, which we're honestly grateful for. I'll use the word partnership in trying to develop these solutions. So we see a long-term, positive impact, but it's not going to happen overnight.
And I'm thinking about this time next year, would that number be, below 150,000, below 120,000?
So,
And in the years to come, do you anticipate a long-term trend line, towards what I think,
yeah.
Most of the people in this state would like to see, which is housing affordable for everyone?
Jake, did you want to?
Sure, Dwight. I just want to point out, development, particularly housing development, does not happen overnight. And the regulatory process, as it stands today, is a years-long endeavor. So any initiation of new investment in housing, the choice for someone to build or to enter the regulatory process, the approvals process, is just the beginning of a pipeline, right? It's just an entry point. And so do I expect that the numbers will be significantly reduced a year from now if we're sitting here at this time? I don't think so. But it's our job to ensure that we are setting a course where the problem isn't getting worse, but the problem is getting better. And so I do think that we'll be sitting here at some point, if this legislation is adopted, and we'll watch the numbers getting better and better and better. And I also want to point out that 150,000 figure, and there are a variety of studies with different methodologies, but the fact that that number is getting higher, Dwight, is an indicator that doing nothing is digging us into a deeper hole. The problem's getting worse the longer we wait to act. And next year, if we do nothing, it'll be bigger. And the next year, bigger. And the next year, bigger.
The only thing I would add, and we have some numbers, I guess our policy staff could help with that. There are some more lower hanging fruit and some more immediate action we can take. For example, accessory dwelling units. ADUs are accessible for, not just because of that, but they are easier to develop on existing properties. Much of the infrastructure already exists. They're just zoned out of existence. And so that is one, and Los Angeles, I forget, in the first year had 20,000, don't quote me on that number, but Los Angeles County did it as of right, an accessory dwelling unit on your private property. And remember, a lot of this is about private property rights. And so with that, with reasonable regulation, again, we're not opposed to regulation as long as it's reasonable, but accessory dwelling units does have the potential to add to the housing stock very, very quickly.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Well, thank you all very much for coming and attending, and that concludes our conference. Thank you.